Welcome back to the T4Q podcast. I'm here with Ethan yet again.
Football, man, it never disappoints. You always think that you know what's coming, and you never quite do.
There's like no drug on the planet that compares to the end of that Steelers-Ravens game, dude. I was screaming. I was writhing on the floor. I've never had a steak that good. There are a few things in life that compare to the highs of sports, man. I swear. The end of that game was absolutely insane.
I couldn't imagine having a dog in the fight there, because if you're a Ravens fan, you see Lamar throw how many was it? 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, or two? It was the 250-yarders, like 50-plus yarders. I think he's the first quarterback in NFL history to throw 2 50-plus yard touchdowns in the fourth and lose. I saw that on Twitter today, so clearly it's right. But I couldn't imagine you have that play, and then you have Boswell miss, and you have Isaiah Likely make the 4th and 7 catch, and
It's one of those things where it's like you have to just be on the right side of history. If Chris Boswell lost the Steelers that game, He's a villain forever. He's I can't even remember the double doink guy, Cody Parkey. Like the fact that I know that guy's name is because of that moment.
Or think about Blair Walsh with the Vikings Seattle game, right?
Yeah.
We don't know these guys because they were good kickers.
I know Blair Walsh because of the call from the Vikings announcer just going like, no.
Yeah, you know what? This is a little bit funny, but you know how there was I think it was Lions-Vikings where Brett Favre threw across his body and threw an interception.
Yeah.
It'd be funny if someone was like, I only know Brett Favre from that moment as well.
The Vikings announcer. I don't know. Do you know his name? That guy's a legend. Oh,
is it Brad Allen or something Allen? Let me look up.
I honestly don't know. I'm trying to remember.
Paul Allen.
The name of
Paul Allen.
Paul Allen. Who's the name of the Charlotte Hornets announcer? It's like
Eric Collins. Eric
Collins, dude. He absolute legend. That's right. I don't know. There's some guys like that. Anyways, I digress. We have predicted the entire NFL playoffs. We know who we're going to take in each matchup, and we're going to go through each one, and we're going to see how right we are when the NFL postseason ends. Now that the regular season is done, this is how we have fun. Okay, first and foremost, we have the Steelers versus the Texans. Ethan, what are your thoughts?
The quick takeaway is this Texans defense is absolutely stifling, not to discredit the Steelers because their defense has been good as well. But to me, this Texans defense is really dominant. They're one of the best we've seen in terms of the numbers. They're 5th in opponents' yards per play, which is really important. They've been one of the best teams in the NFL. And to me, their offense doesn't have to do all that much, kind of like their counterparts here in Pittsburgh, but Houston's 3rd in takeaways per game. And to me, that's going to be a big story here. Can they create takeaways? And then also on 3rd down, Houston this year, this is going to be a big point. They're 23rd right now, so 10th worst in 3rd down conversion. If they can stay close to that 50% mark, I think they win this game. I think overall they're a better football team, but not by a ton. What do you think, Alex?
I also think it's not going to be by a ton on paper, and in my gut, the Texans are a much better team. I think the Texans are better in basically every facet of the game. The Steelers' biggest strength is their pass rush, and the Texans' biggest weakness is their O-line, so that creates a pretty difficult matchup for the Texans. But that being said, the Steelers' offense has struggled in general. I'm glad that they're getting DK Metcalf back for the playoffs, but we're talking about a Texans team that's on the longest win streak in the NFL, 9 straight. I think they have the best defense in the league. I would be absolutely shocked if the Texans lost this one, but the Texans have a incredible skill to make games close when they probably shouldn't be. So I'm going to say that this is a 1-score game, but I'm taking the Texans as well.
Yep, agree.
All right, glad we're on the same page with that one. Next up is Jaguars versus Bills. I will come out and say, because I've quoted myself, I said that if this matchup happened, the Bills would win by 3 scores. I no longer think that. Ethan, who are you leaning towards?
I okay. I'm actually going to pass back to you, Alex. Tell me why you're amending that statement and what your current statement is to the public.
Okay. My past statement was that the Jaguars didn't have a passing game, so they wouldn't do well in the playoffs. They wouldn't be able to get their offense going, and I didn't believe in their defense to be able to carry them to a win. My amended statement is that the last 6 weeks have been the best 6 weeks of Trevor Lawrence's career. He has played like an actual MVP candidate, and that was not on my short list of possibilities for this team, man. I'm just gonna, eat my words and just admit that the Jaguars have less weaknesses on their team than the Buffalo Bills. I think they have they're well-rounded. They don't really have any holes in their defense. If their offense continues to pass the way that they do, they legitimately have a elite passing offense, as opposed to when you look at the Bills, they're one of the more, I don't want to say lopsided, but they have more weaknesses than most playoff teams. That run defense for the Bills is atrocious, and it's been taken advantage of time and time again. So it's like, can the Jags unlock their run game? I don't know. Travis Etienne's kind of been up and down. We're going to see what happens. It's like, I think that this is a really interesting matchup where the strengths of the Jags don't necessarily target the weaknesses of the Buffalo Bills, and the Buffalo Bills have Josh Allen, so every game is going to be a dogfight, and we're just going to see if he can finally make it further in the playoffs than in years past. I saw a lot of people talking about like no Joe Burrow, no Lamar Jackson, no Pat Mahomes. How many times is that going to happen for Josh Allen? This is the year. This is the year, and I think that Josh Allen knows that. I'm going to say Bills, but honestly, the logical part of my brain, I went into this looking for stats to kind of pick on with the Jags because I've been so low on them all year. The more I looked into it, the more I was thoroughly impressed by them. And I'm now only saying Bills because that's what my gut says, but my brain's telling me that the Jaguars will win. I think this is going to be a really close one.
I think you summed that up really well. I'm disappointed by the NFL they put this game at 1 p.m. on Sunday because this feels disrespectful to the Jaguars just because they're the Jaguars. I get it, but still, do better, NFL. I am in the same boat as you, Alex. I think that my brain, when I start to look at this a little bit more, I think the Jaguars, I think you're just right in terms of the Jaguars have fewer holes. Their holes to me are smaller and less severe than the Bills. You talk about the run defense. I agree. If they can get that attack going with ETN where he's in triple digits, it's going to be really hard for Buffalo to win this game. Obviously, Buffalo is used to and probably prefers a shootout. But when you look at the numbers, third down conversion, Buffalo's fourth versus Jacksonville's 19th. Red zone scoring, Buffalo is third with Jacksonville 10th. And yards per play, Buffalo is fifth, Jacksonville 18th. So yes, the numbers I think overall probably favor the Jaguars because they're a more complete football team, it seems like, at this current juncture. But that being said, the Bills have all this playoff experience. And yes, they haven't gone to the Super Bowl, but I think that there's something to be said for Sean McDermott getting his team ready to play. Liam Cohen, a first-time head coach. How is he going to perform? There's more uncertainty to me with Jacksonville, and that's why, to me, I slightly favor the Bills. I think it's going to be a really, really close game. I wouldn't be surprised if it ended in a walk-off field goal or a late touchdown drive, but to me, the Bills are a slightly easier team for me to say I'm confident in, but that's not necessarily because I think the Jags are bad. I just think the Bills have been here before, and they have, at this current point in time, the quarterback you'd want on your team.
Exactly. And yes, but it's also watching the tape on Trevor Lawrence for the last 6 weeks. And once again, it's just 6 weeks. It's crazy because the week before that, I think he threw 3 interceptions and a fumble versus the Cardinals. So it's really just been the last 6 weeks.
Yes. Can I just butt in real quick? So you said the Jaguars have won, it's 8 straight, right?
Yeah, I believe.
Can I just read you in reverse order their opponents that they've beaten?
Yeah.
It's the Tennessee Titans, the Indianapolis Colts, the Denver Broncos in Denver by 14. That's very impressive. The New York Jets, the Indianapolis Colts, the Tennessee Titans, the Arizona Cardinals. That's their last 7 opponents. Not to bring into the strength of schedule debate, which obviously you love talking about. But when Trevor Lawrence looks like an MVP
Oh
for the
man.
last 6 weeks and the only team he's played is the Denver Broncos, I do think there are some holes in that argument, though it is impressive at the NFL level to do this.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I do think that the Chargers win is legit.
Yeah,
Like beating
I
them
omitted that
35-6. The
purposefully.
Chargers, yeah, on that win streak, the Chargers, especially their secondary, is completely legit. I could go on an absolute rant. One of my favorite players in the league this year has been Tarheeb Still. Love Tarheeb Still. Anyways, don't get me started. I won't stop. No matter what. I mean, even then, like the week before, he put up 29 versus the Texans. If you want to open the can of worms, it's there. No matter what, if we're looking at the sample size of the last 6 weeks, he's been incredibly impressive. And it's like, do you ride that momentum into the postseason? We'll find out. There are truly, in my opinion, in the bracket that I made, there's only a couple of games where it's like it is truly 50-50, and I'm just kind of going with my gut at one point, and this is one of those games. If I'm wrong about this one, I'll be fine with that because
The
I don't know who's going to win.
the other part about that, Alex, to me, is in the postseason, not only does the game shrink and it slows down, and the matchup is scrutinized so much more by the advanced scouting and all of that. But to me, coaching does matter a lot, and quarterback play does matter a lot in the playoffs. There's a reason why when guys like Trent Dilfer or Joe Flacco have won the Super Bowl or Nick Foles, we marvel at it because these aren't guys who were historically dominant or top eight. Usually, I don't have a mathematical backing of this, but I think it's top 7 or 8 quarterbacks in the league are usually who end up winning the Super Bowl. Sometimes you make it and lose with a guy who's below that threshold, and sometimes you win with a guy below that threshold, but it's rare to have that happen. I think we would all agree Josh Allen's a top 7 or 8 quarterback in the league. I
Oh yeah,
also think that Trevor Lawrence, I don't know where you'd put him, but he's certainly not a lock to be a top 7 or 8 quarterback in the league. Like
yeah.
unequivocally amongst fans, I agree it's a debate at this point, but I don't think that it's a unanimous like, "Yup, definitely on to the next one." The way that we talk about Mahomes or Burrow or those guys.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, the last 6, if you're just isolating the last 6 weeks, and once again, it's a flawed argument, but just for the sake of like momentum going into the playoffs, which I do think plays a factor.
Yep.
Those last 6 weeks, if you're ranking quarterbacks off that, he's above Lamar, he's above other quarterbacks that we would usually put above him. So for the sake of argument, it's like Trevor Lawrence top 6 quarterback going into the postseason.
Yeah.
Anyways, let's move on to a quarterback who's definitely top 6 in the league. We got the Patriots versus the Chargers, battle of two great quarterbacks here. Ethan, I'm guessing that you're going to agree with me that the Patriots win this one, but I want to hear you say it.
You are too much, my friend. You are too much. No, this is super fair. I would do the same if my team ever makes the playoffs again. But no, I completely agree. I think the Patriots win this game. I think it's going to be pretty competitive. I don't believe it's going to be a blowout. But this Chargers offensive line has looked poor at points. Herbert's been on his behind more than they'd like him to be. And to me, if the Chargers can't push the ball downfield at an elite level, which like I do think it's going to need a very valiant passing effort to be able to beat the Patriots, just given the strengths of the teams. I expect the Patriots to win this game. I think being at Gillette's a huge advantage as well. And they're rolling. Like you could talk about strength of schedule, but they are absolutely rolling right now. I think the Patriots should win this game. I also, not to talk about the schedule too much, but the Chargers were certainly the best wild card team to face out of these three. But definitely want to hear your thoughts as someone who obviously roots for the team and is very unbiased considering your admiration.
Oh, well, thank you, Ethan. I try my best. Um, the, yes to pretty much everything that you said. This was the best wild card team to get. I'm really grateful that we weren't playing the Texans first round because, man, those Texans look mean. I'll get into how far I think that they're going to go. I mean, the Chargers are coming off of a couple of bad losses. I put in my notes, and I quote, Justin Herbert got mutilated versus the Texans. Like, that was just a brutal showing by that offensive line. Like all of football social media stopped and threw up like one of those like Hunger Games symbols for Justin Herbert because he just got. It was an incredible effort by him. I will say the Patriots do not have the pass rush that the Chargers. The Patriots do not have the pass rush that the Texans have, so I really doubt that we're going to get the same sack numbers that the Texans did. That being said, like you said, it's going to take a valiant passing effort, especially with Marion Hampton coming off of injury. The Patriots have the third best PFF coverage grade, and overall, I mean, if you watch the games, if you're doing the eye test, if you're looking at rosters, the secondary on this team is ridiculous. I mean, Christian Gonzalez, Marcus Jones, I could keep on going. I'm not too worried about teams being able to pass their way against us. I worry about the run at times, but I don't think that the Chargers will be able to win that way. I think that this is a pretty easy win for the Patriots, to be honest. Plus, in regard to being able to stop the run, the Patriots get Milton Williams and Will Campbell back for the playoffs. Milton Williams more for the run defense. That's huge. They were definitely missing his presence in the last few weeks of the season. Really looking forward to seeing him get back and seeing what this defense can be in the postseason. Fantastic. Glad we're on the same page. How much time do we want to spend on Panthers versus Rams? It's crazy because the Panthers are playing at home and they won the previous game versus the Rams, but the Rams are obviously heavy favorites here. I mean, is there a world where the Panthers pull the upset, Ethan?
Listen, I think that's why we play the game. That's why we watch the game. I wouldn't say I'll be glued to my television for this matchup, but I'll watch the game, like in some part of it. But no, I think the Panthers, their road to success in this game would probably be creating turnovers, and like they're going to have to. I'm just looking back at when they played in what week was that they played? Let me find when they played. They played each other.
Week 11?
I think it was the 30th of October. Just reading off what they did. Yes, I was right.
13th.
The Rams had 3 turnovers, 1 fumble loss, 2 interceptions. To the Panthers, 0. And the Panthers had 10 more minutes of time of possession and won the rushing game. So to me, that's a big piece of it. They also, third down, they had a better conversion rate. That to me is a big piece of it as well. But just overall, that to me, they also went 4 for 4 on fourth down. The Panthers are going to have to be ballsy if they're going to win this game. I also think, as I said, they're going to have to create turnovers, but really just control clock, time of possession, and the area of possession. If they can't dominate the red area and flip the field on the Rams and back them up, it's going to be tough sledding. You better hope that Derek Brown shows up for those Panthers in the run game, because if they get the run game going and can establish that and move the chains and chunk out yardage, it's going to be over in the first quarter for these Panthers. I don't think that will happen. I do think they'll put up a good fight, but I agree with you. This could end up being a double-digit game at some point before halftime.
If I ever have the extra time to do it, I want to do a deep dive on this Panther season, because I truly believe it's one of the most bizarre seasons we've seen in a long time. Like, just on a game-by-game basis, it makes absolutely no sense. But yeah, the Panthers played amazing versus the Rams last time. They'll need the run game to be dominant. They'll need Rico Dowdle to be Rico Dowdle of this year, or like of the few games that he had this year. They're going to need a 200-yard rushing performance or whatever they can get from him. I just don't see that happening. I'm really confident in this Rams defense to not let that happen. And Bryce Young had a random superstar game versus the Rams, but generally speaking, he just cannot pass downfield. They aren't drawing up plays for Bryce Young to even attempt deep passes. I think that against defensive minds like we see on the Rams, the Panthers are going to have absolutely no room to move. I'm going to go ahead and move on. We're both saying that the Rams win.
That's a question?
Oh, yeah, okay.
This could be bad. Old takes exposed.
Yeah, oh man, I hope so. I hope that the Panthers come away and win. That would be one of the craziest. I think I said like the last time that we filmed a podcast, I'd be like, the craziest thing, I'm going to say it now. Panthers play the Rams in the first round and then the Panthers win. I think I said that at some point, but that was a
Wow.
joke. I mean, just kidding. It was definitely not a joke. Anyways, moving on to the Eagles versus 49ers, and I'm going to let you finish, but I need to talk about how massive, and I'm glad you're nodding your head. We need to talk about how massive the mistake was by the Eagles to pull their starters versus the Commanders, because they would have been the 2 seed and they're now the 3 seed. So instead of playing the Packers, they're playing the 49ers. And instead of being home versus the Bears in the quarterfinal or in the divisional, they're now away versus the Bears. That is a championship losing shift potentially for the Eagles, because they chose to rest their starters. I didn't understand it when they announced it. And then I didn't understand when they started losing to the Commanders, not subbing in at least some of them, because the ramifications of this game were massive. I can't think of any decision as puzzling as this in recent NFL history. I'm absolutely shocked that this was approved by ownership, that this came down, because the Eagles, known for being a smart organization, doing this. I don't get it, Ethan. Can you play devil's advocate? Can you tell me why this happened?
Well, no, but I think the justification is the chances that the Bears lose and you win to move up 1 seed maybe didn't make sense to them. But the other part of it, and I was saying this to a Bears fan the other day, and I think it's pertinent, being able to host the 2 versus 3 matchup in the divisional round is a meaningful difference. That's like home field advantage in the playoffs is so monumental. It's unquantifiable what it does for a team in terms of confidence, in terms of comfort, in terms of performance. And to potentially not go all in on that when you had an opportunity, I found that to be a little bit irresponsible of them. I don't feel as passionate as you do, but it's similarly puzzling for me. I think that that's a very plausible scenario in which you beat the Commanders and the Lions beat the Bears. And obviously that's what almost happened if the Eagles ended up beating the Commanders. But yeah, I don't have a good explanation. What I will say about this game, though, given that we now have the matchup of the Niners and the Eagles, this is a really fun matchup. Like it's 2 teams that have been they've been mystifyingly confusing at points. The Niners were not meant to be this good. I don't know, couple long plays away from potentially getting the number 1 seed with a team that had to start Mac Jones for a month, and the team that has no Nick Bosa. I'll read you some of the injured guys: Michael Williams, Ayuk.
Oh my gosh, yeah, you
Right?
forget about that. You forget that they have $30 million tied up in a wide receiver that didn't play.
You didn't even let me finish, bro. Fred Warner. Now Tatum Bethune is out. Trent Williams is questionable. I'm sure he'll play. Ricky Pearsall, questionable. D. Winters. Like, I'm not even done with reading off this list. It's just, it blows my mind how Shanahan has put this team together at the record in which they have at 12-5, and somehow they're third in their division, which is also crazy. But I digress. To me, this game is going to be fascinating from the standpoint of which team can convert in the red area, because these offenses are going to move the ball, you'd expect, and it's about converting in these scenarios. And I will just read off a stat to me that's important. The Eagles are first in red zone offense by almost 4 percentage points over the second best team. The Niners are good at 65%, which is 5th, but the Eagles are over 5% better in the red zone than the 49ers. To me, that's a really important piece here. My gut tells me the Eagles have struggled at times this season and that they might have periods of lulls on offense. I think championship experience matters. I think that the weight that they have on that offensive line when they're playing well is really, really impactful. I don't like this pick, but I'm going to say the Eagles win this game. But I think this piece of the bracket is just absolutely fascinating.
Okay, interesting, interesting. We get our first difference of opinion. I am, I guess I'll just begin with this. I'm going to say the 49ers. I think it's going to be close, but the 49ers, by far, their biggest weakness is their atrocious run defense. They were horrible at that all year, and that's largely because of it's funny, this whole offseason they prioritized run defense, run defense, run defense, and then this year they came out and they still weren't able to do it because of injuries. That being said, the Bills also have a horrible run defense, and when the Eagles played them the other day, the Eagles won 13-12. Saquon Barkley had 68 rushing yards on 19 attempts. So honestly, I don't believe in the Eagles' ability to take advantage of a horrible run defense. And beyond that, the 49ers have been elite with Brock Purdy when he's been starting. And this whole last month, they've been great until they played the Seahawks. But before the Seahawks, they put up 37, 48, 42 points. They were on a 6-game win streak. I'm willing to disregard the Seahawks game. I mean, the Seahawks are amazing. They create weird outcomes for teams. I think it's one of those truly 50-50 games. I'm going to say the 49ers, but as you said, championship experience is important. A lot of this squad has deep playoff experience, Super Bowl experience, not necessarily a championship, but both these squads are incredibly experienced. And I believe in the coaching for the 49ers this year a little bit more. I believe in the momentum that they have a little bit more. The Eagles, in my opinion, really haven't given me a lot to believe in. They've lost two of the three last matchups they've had versus playoff teams. They beat the Bills, as I said, but they lost to the Bears and they lost to the Chargers right after losing to the Cowboys and dropping 3 straight. To finish off the season, the Eagles have been confusing as hell. I can't confidently say that they're going to be able to step into this game and beat a legitimate playoff team. So I'm going to say 49ers. It's a close one. But what do you think of that? Do you have a rebuttal?
Well, see, I only would have rebuttals if these are hills that I'm unwilling to walk down from. I don't feel that strongly. To me, it's kind of like the Jaguars-Bills game in some ways, where my head is telling me to pick the Niners, but my heart, again, I mean, maybe I'm just biased towards the teams in recent history that have been good. Not to say the Niners haven't been good, because obviously they've been spectacular in the last decade at getting to the Super Bowl and getting to the NFC Championship game. Kyle Shanahan has shown his prowess. But to me, if the Eagles' offensive line can do their job, which means creating in the run and protecting Jalen Hurts well enough to be able to hopefully find his receivers open, I slightly favor the Eagles. I agree with you, though. I do think it will be close. I do think the Niners are a great team. And I wouldn't, like, if you said the Niners are in the NFC Championship, I'd be like, okay, that makes sense. That's not a ridiculous claim. However, I think that the Eagles, when the margins shrink and they need to be on their A game, I think that will show up for this game. I think also this game being in Philadelphia makes a huge difference. One of the best home fields in the league. The Niners, I think if this game was at Levi Stadium, this would be way different. But listen, I wouldn't be shocked if we're sitting here on, I guess that game is the afternoon Saturday. Or Sunday, I mean. So I wouldn't be shocked if Sunday night or Monday we're sitting here and the Niners have won. But I would like you to start on this next game if you don't have anything else to add on that one. Tell me about this NFC North matchup, Alex.
I mean, man, oh man, it's difficult for me because I don't really believe in the Bears that much, but I believe in the Packers even less than the Bears. I mean, I feel like this whole season, the Bears have won in spite of Caleb Williams, and that's a hill that I'm not. As a hill, I don't think I'm. That's a hill I'll die on. Screw it. Yeah, that's a hill I'll die on. Caleb Williams has not been the quarterback that the Bears have needed this season, but the run game and the O-line have been so good that they've allowed that shortcoming at quarterback to not affect them that much. And they're playing the Packers, who just lost Micah Parsons. The Packers have lost every game since losing Micah Parsons. And in the 3 games that they haven't had Micah Parsons, they've been one of the worst run defending teams in the league. So when you have the Bears, who have an elite run game that is only getting better as the season goes on, versus the Packers that are on a skid and can't defend the run, I kind of have to go Bears. And, that doesn't make me feel good. The Packers are my second team. The Patriots number one, but I had an uncle growing up who was a massive Packers fan. Shout out Steve. And I want to see the Packers do well, but no, not seeing that happen. I mean, week 16 versus the Bears is basically the same game that we're going to see, because I don't think that Malik Willis was a drop off in talent from Jordan Love. Another hot take. And the Bears won that, so I'm going Bears.
So I'm actually surprised that you picked the Bears, because I know we've talked about Caleb Williams. I think the thing that makes him great, in some ways also holds him back, his escapability is very unique, and his ability to operate out of structure is, it's top 5 in the league, maybe top 3 in the league. Just creating outside the pocket, being in uncomfortable positions. But yeah, he does run out of clean pockets, and he does have times where he just tucks it and runs for no reason, or throws the ball over the head of his receivers out of bounds. I really want to be counterculture to you just for the sake of this. I think the Bears are going to win, because I think that they're the better team. But to create a fun environment, I will pick the Packers, because I'd like to see that happen. I think playing in Chicago is a hard environment. I think a divisional game is hard. But if you look at the coaching, who's been a head coach in the playoffs and won games? It's been Matt LaFleur. Not because
Who's
Ben
a better
Johnson
coach right now, though?
I don't disagree with you. I don't think Matt LaFleur is an elite head coach. But I do think that the point goes towards Matt LaFleur in terms of being playoff experienced, just simply because he's been there. I don't think that is something that can't change by the end of this postseason. If Ben Johnson goes to the NFC Championship, then yeah, point for him potentially. But I will not defend this profusely, because I actually don't know if I believe this, but I will take the Packers based on more so the vibes, which I don't like. But I also would like to be counterculture to you, because I know you don't like picking the Bears. So I'll pick the Packers just to be argumentative, and also it makes my NFC bracket a little bit spicier.
Fantastic. I do love a spicy bracket. But nonetheless, we move on to the divisionals. First game we're going to go over. Broncos versus Bills. Ethan, who do you have?
Man, this is going to be a really fun game, because you got a really strong defense in Denver against a potent offense that has been there before. And this is also a rematch of last year, or was it last season or 2 seasons ago, that the Bills played the Broncos? Let me just double check. This was the wild card round last season. The Bills won. It was in Buffalo, but the Bills won 31-7. This matchup, to me, kind of like the last one for the Bills, will come down to, yes, there are strengths and weaknesses of both these teams. I think the Broncos defense is really good, but they've shown at times to be vulnerable, with Riley Moss getting exploited as their second corner. I think in a matchup like the Bills, it's not as pressing, because the Bills' vertical threats aren't as, feared. But to me, I'm still going to take the Bills. I think their playoff experience matters a lot. I think their offense is what you'd rather have than Denver's offense. I don't feel awesome about, honestly, picking Buffalo to go far, but I think that I guess I'm buying into the media hype of this is their year, because there's no Mahomes, no Lamar, no Burrow, and all that stuff. But I do think that the Bills are capable of going into Mile High and winning that game. I think I know what you're going to say about Bo Nix. I don't know if he's necessarily a guy I trust to win an AFC Divisional Round, whether it be on the road or at home. But I'm going to take the Bills a little bit begrudgingly. But this would be a fascinating matchup.
Yeah, yeah. Playing spoiler to how I feel about the Broncos, I know that we've talked off camera and in the past about how low I am on the Broncos. And it's crazy because my preseason prediction, I said the Broncos would go 13-4. And that was crazy because the expected win over under was 8.5. Like, they were maybe a playoff team preseason. That is where people were on the Broncos before the season started. Here we are. I said the Broncos were going to be great. And they outperformed my own high expectations of them record-wise. And yet here I am sitting across from you in a digital space saying that the Broncos are absolute frauds. Oh my gosh, they have played down to every opponent they've had. They have 2 one-score wins versus the Raiders. They almost lost to the Chiefs, who didn't have Pat Mahomes. They almost lost to the Commanders, who didn't have Mariota. This defense has been good, not great, in my opinion. They started off amazing earlier in the season. Nick Bonito looked like a defensive player of the year. Now, I feel like the defense has been consistently good, not great. Like you said, Riley Moss getting picked on the outside. I think that that's absolutely a matchup that Josh Allen is so good at taking advantage of. When you have a guy like Pat Surtain, you want him to be matched up with a wide receiver 1. That's the best way to take advantage of a guy like that. The Bills don't really have anyone that, like Pat Surtain, can make a massive impact against, because the Bills don't have a wide receiver 1. They don't have a Stephon Diggs anymore that Pat Surtain could come in and lock down and really cause problems with. Instead, Josh Allen's going to spread the ball out, and there are weaknesses that Josh Allen, especially, I think, has the ability to exploit. I'm definitely going to go Bills. The Bills, in my opinion, have an offense that's capable of putting up points versus the Broncos, and I really do doubt this Broncos offense, man. I was expecting Bo Nix to be so much better than he was this season, and I just don't see him being great versus this Bills team. Not to mention the Bills, with their incredibly poor run defense, have to defend against RJ Harvey, who has not been the rusher that I think that the Denver Broncos were hoping for. He's been putting up counting stats, but his efficiency numbers are just not great. I think they missed J.K. Dobbins. We're going to see what the Broncos can do against that Bills defense. I'm not feeling it. I'm saying Bills to the AFC Championship, man. And I'm glad that we're on the same page with that, because, you know, the Broncos having the record that they do, I feel like that's a pretty hot take. You think that's a hot take for both of us to say Bills?
I'm not sure. I'm honestly not sure, because I'd be a little surprised, but I wouldn't be completely shocked if we saw the Broncos-Bills fixture with the Broncos winning by, let's say, 12 points, because they create turnovers and the Bills' offense is stifled. Like, I don't think that's an unimaginable scenario, but I don't think it's as likely as the other way around, where we're like, wow, this Broncos team was a lot poorer than we thought they were. The way that I think that that's more likely than saying that about the Bills. That being said, I mean, they play the game once. They don't play it 100 times, or, you know, a 7-game series like they do in baseball or basketball or hockey. It's one game. It's one Sunday, Saturday, whatever day they play that game, hypothetically, right? Like, that comes down to it. And honestly, I don't even know which coach I'd rather more. I just know that when you talk about quarterback, you talk about consistency and not playing down to your opponent, I think the Bills are a better team for this matchup. But the one that I absolutely cannot wait to hear your thoughts on, Alex.
Patriots-Texans. Oh, boy.
Do you want me to go first to build suspense for the viewers, or do you want me? Okay.
Oh,
you go.
Up to you. I will go first. I've got a whole section on this, man. I've got writing down, ink, paper.
Okay.
I'm ready.
Then I will just do a very small intro so you know where I stand.
Fantastic.
I think the Texans would win this game.
You're so wrong. You're
great.
No, just kidding.
Awesome.
No, continue.
I think they would win this game, and I don't think that's even an indictment on the Patriots per se. The Patriots, everyone can talk about the strength of schedule and all these other pieces. I don't think that necessarily matters. It's more to me about the Texans' defense is that good. I think that their defense, we haven't seen a defense like this in a good deal of time, where I'm like, yep, the first level, the second level, the third, like every position, I feel really good about the Texans. I think their offense can and will do enough to get the job done. I have maybe too much faith in their defense. I will take the Texans. I will add on to my points after, but I would like to hear your thoughts because now I'm on the edge of my seat.
First things first, this is going to be an incredible game. Not if, but when it happens, because it's going to happen. It's going to be an incredible game. I mean, first off, the Patriots are an exceptional coverage team, but they don't rush the passer well, and they don't defend the run particularly well. The most rushing yards that they let up in the season were in weeks 15, 16, and 17. They needed Milton Williams to come back. He's come back. Hopefully that helps the run defense. But the way to take advantage of this Patriots team right now is being able to run the ball. The Texans are going to be trotting out Woody Marks and Dare Ogunbowale. And like you said, the yards per carry, not great. So I don't know if the Texans can take advantage of that. The Texans aren't protecting the ball particularly well. They can't stop pass rushers. They're generally okay at passing it, but that's like not, their offense overall is not that talented. So the Patriots don't have the best pass rush. The Texans don't necessarily have the best pass blocking. Who is going to win this battle of mid? I think that that's probably the most important matchup, is which of these groups that have sort of underwhelmed for these otherwise really good teams are going to win that matchup. I would kind of lean towards the Patriots, to be honest. I think that Milton Williams is that good, and I think he's stepped up in the playoffs before, and I think he can do it again. Outside of that, I did a bunch of research into how the Patriots have performed against really good defenses. They have played one top 10 defense all year when they put up 32 points versus the Browns. So it's kind of like, yeesh, how do we feel about that? One thing that I did think was interesting is that the Patriots have played 4 of the top 10 pass rushes. The Bucs had a really good pass rush. Other teams have a really good pass rush that they played. They have, however, played 0 top 10 coverage teams. So we know how Maye is able to operate. We know how Maye is able to scramble out of the pocket and still find receivers when the pass rush gets home, because honestly, the Patriots' pass blocking has been good, not great. Maye is amazing at avoiding pressure. Has he ever had to do that against a top 10 coverage team? He hasn't even played a top 10 coverage team this year. So I don't know how Maye is going to react to an elite secondary. Obviously, he's been great. Obviously, this, that, and the other thing. I will admit, I am scared about how Drake Maye is going to play against that Texans secondary, and I think being, overly confident about that is not the answer. He's probably going to struggle. But that being said, what are the Texans going to do in response? The Patriots have the 3rd highest ranked coverage grade per PFF. The Texans haven't been able to run the ball. They're probably going to be forced to throw it. Can CJ Stroud get it past Gonzo and others? I don't know how confident I feel about that. I think that the Christian Gonzalez matchup versus Nico Collins, Christian Gonzalez is so good at playing man coverage on bigger receivers. He's been great in the past versus guys like T. Higgins. I'm really excited to see that matchup. I think it's going to come down to, can Woody Marks and Dare Ogunbowale beat the Patriots? And I'm going to guess no. So I'm going to take the Patriots in this matchup. It ultimately is going to be an incredible game. I think that these are the 2 best teams in the AFC. Spoiler for everything else. So this is the AFC Championship that we're seeing in this matchup here. And I am super excited to see the Patriots go to the AFC Championship if they do get past the Texans. If they lose to the Texans, that is a great opponent to lose to. I would not consider that a disappointing season at all.
Yeah. The only piece that I have to add on to that is when you talk about the top 10 defenses that the Patriots have played, from what I'm seeing in EPA per play, the Texans are far and away the best defense when it comes, maybe not far and away, Seattle's also really good, but those are the 2 clear best defenses in terms of EPA per play. And when you look at the Patriots, they've played, I actually have 2 in terms of EPA per play defenses that are top 10 that they've faced, and it's the Browns and the Saints. In the Saints game was actually pretty close, not because Drake Maye didn't play well.
That was the refs, man. That's one of those. That was probably one of the worst officiated games of the year. That was like when I saw the Panthers get screwed over by the refs versus the Bucs. That reminded me of the Saints game. Homer, this is probably me being biased. That was one of the most atrociously reffed games I've ever seen. I don't put any stock in that. The fact it was a one-score game and the fact that the Saints didn't win means that it was an absolute masterclass on all other levels. Sorry, continue.
Okay. Against the Browns defense, which is one of the best units, especially if you talk about one-sided units where the defense is just so good and the offense doesn't complement them at all. By the way, Malachi Corley was the leading rusher for the Browns, if that means anything to you. He played for the Jets, by the way. So, yeah, on one carry, 31 yards. But Drake May in this game, he had an interception. He had 6 sacks, and he had a fumble. Wasn't lost fumble. But to me, again, I don't think that one game defines a season when it comes to a regular season game. But I do have question marks about what this Drake May pass offense will look like against the Browns are 5th in EPA per play. The Houston Texans are 1st, and the difference between 1st and 5th it's pretty staggering. It's 30 more EPA points than it's by crazy margins that the Texans defense and with Seattle's are better than the others. And to me, some of this is admittedly biased, which I guess you would say on the other side of it. I will take the Texans in that matchup. I think it would be an awesome game to get to see a potential MVP go against the best defense in the league. I favor the defense. I also am just a classic defense wins championships type of guy in general. But I think that would be an awesome matchup. And I think on the flip side of that, I'd love to see the Texans offense go against the Patriots defense. I think the Pats could get after them. I think, like you said, the back end of that Patriots team could potentially step up, especially at that corner position, because they are loaded at that position group. And can that front 5 offensive linemen for Houston, can they hold up and can they get the run game going well enough? I have no idea, but I would take the Texans in that game.
Yeah, I mean, the big guy that I've picked on all season was Ariante Ursary, and he has stepped up and become a decent pass blocker. His run blocking grades are still horrible, but he's become a decent pass blocker. So in terms of getting sacks, it's going to be interesting. You taking the Texans, I was joking when I was like, you're so wrong. Like, if the Texans beat the Patriots, I wouldn't be shocked. I'd be disappointed, but I wouldn't like turn around and be like, oh, it was a failure of the season. It's going to be an incredible game, and I really hope that we get to see it. Moving on, though, we have some incredible matchups in the NFC. We have the Seahawks versus the 49ers. On my end of things, you would have the Seahawks versus the Packers. Correct?
Yep. And I'll just give you the brief. I have the Seahawks winning that game pretty comfortably. I would assume you have the Seahawks winning again, because similar fixture to the Niners. But in terms of my matchup against the Packers, hypothetically, I think Seattle's defense is just that good. They're going to get after Jordan Love, and their offense has been the concern I have with the Seahawks, and I'd love to hear your thoughts and your breakdown, is Sam Darnold in big games has not shown a ton of inspiration when it comes to confidence. I would struggle to think that in a big moment he's going to elevate his team to the standard that he needs to when it's all on him. But I actually don't think the Seattle team in that type of matchup against Green Bay needs that from him. And that's why I have Seattle comfortably over Green Bay.
I would agree with that. Going up against Green Bay's secondary is pretty much just a warm-up for Sam Darnold. If the Packers made it to the NFC Championship, dude, I don't even know. I would admit that I don't know anything about sports at that point. I would hope that Sam Darnold, even with him underperforming in the playoffs in the past, can pretty easily handle the Packers. I don't think that they pose much of a challenge, especially without Micah Parsons. I don't think that secondary alone is going to give Sam Darnold any troubles particularly. So yes, if the Packers were to play the Seahawks, I would take the Seahawks pretty handily. I think that the 49ers Seahawks matchup is pretty interesting. I mean, obviously this wasn't in your bracket, but who would you take 49ers Seahawks? I believe that we would still both take Seahawks, but it'd be a really interesting game.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that we saw the fixture being played in San Francisco with Seattle still pretty dominantly running that show, and I think that the same would go. But again, it's hard to beat a team that many times in the year, and just when you talk about that division, it's so good, man. Like that division is just it's. I mean, we don't have to have this debate now, but is it one of the best divisions we've seen in recent memory? Probably. But that being,
we'll save it for another day.
Sure. But it would be, season series is split between them where the Niners beat Seattle week 1. These teams are in very different spots than they were in week 1. So I would take Seattle.
Yeah. I'd also take Seattle. I mean, like, Robert Saleh is a defensive genius. No two ways about it. I think he has another shot at being a head coach this upcoming season, and I think he'd be a good head coach. I think the Jets ruin people. That being said, Chris Shula was able to just coach circles around Sam Darnold. We talked about the plays that they managed to run to generate those turnovers out of Sam Darnold were just genius. And I think that Robert Saleh is capable of doing that. I think that Sam Darnold has a streak of not being able to outsmart top-level defensive coordinators, which like, oh, no, you're not like one of the best ever. Good job. Like, it's, there's a lot of sympathy for that. At the same time, I do think that 49ers run defense and the injuries that they've gone through, especially what you talked about, there's nothing that can really stop that Seattle O-line plus Zach Charbonnet plus Kenneth Walker. That running offense for the Seahawks is capable of carrying them through a game, even if Sam Darnold underperforms. And I do think that Seahawks defense overall is leaps and bounds better than the 49ers, even with a superior defensive coordinator on the 49ers. So I'm going to take the Seahawks pretty confidently. Let's move on to this next game. I think that we're going to I would have gone Rams-Bears.
Yep.
But you're going to go Rams-Eagles. Rams-Eagles is fascinating. I don't know which way you would go.
I have the Rams in this game. I think that their offense has stagnated at points. Obviously, the Atlanta game, their offense didn't look great with those turnovers from Stafford. And he's had a couple of those games where it's been puzzling. Yeah. But I expect, like you just gave Chris Shula his flowers, I expect that this team between McVay and Shula and Stafford and Nakua, I expect them to figure it out. Their offensive line, when healthy, has been a lot better than I expected them to be honest. In the last bunch of years, they drafted a handful of guys that I did not like when they first drafted them. And they've turned it, like their offensive line is turning around, where now they're one of the better units in the NFL. To me, the Rams would win this game. Maybe this is more of I picked the Packers not to cop out, but I really wanted to see a Rams-Seahawks NFC Championship to have that third game of the series. But I do think the Rams would beat the Eagles despite it being in Philadelphia. We saw it last year. The Eagles won the Super Bowl, a much better iteration of their squad. And the Rams were one deep shot away from potentially ending Philadelphia's Super Bowl run and rewriting NFL history. So to me, I would take the Rams. I don't know how close of a game it would be. I do think it would be close. But I would be pretty confident picking the Rams over the Eagles if that matchup ended up coming to fruition.
Yeah, I mean, if that matchup did happen, as I've said about the Eagles, they lost 2 of their 3 last matchups versus playoff teams. It's being a little nitpicky because before that they did beat other playoff teams, but in the last few months, they haven't shown that championship DNA, in my opinion. They lost so much of their team from last year. I take the Rams pretty confidently. The Rams have the experience. Same as the Eagles, but they have the experience. They have an amazing coaching staff, and the talent on that team is just ridiculous. Top to bottom, I just think the Rams are a better team than the Eagles right now, and I'm a lot more confident in them. On my end, it would have been Rams versus Bears. The Bears, in my opinion, are an incredibly good one-trick pony. Their defense is overall mediocre, but that running offense is just absolutely elite. The Rams, however, are one of the best run defenses in the league. So I think we're going to see a movable object meet a stoppable force. Like, I do think that the Rams will be able to shut down that run game. And then when you have Caleb Williams and you go, Caleb, we need you. Caleb, please beat the Rams secondary. It's just not going to happen. I think we'd see like 3 turnovers by Caleb Williams, and the Rams with a pretty comfortable win and a pretty comfortable road to that NFC Championship, where we would get that third that third matchup of these teams, which I'm very excited to get into. But do you have anything else that you'd like to add?
No, that sounds great.
Let us journey back over to the AFC, where we see the third iteration of the Patriots-Bills on my end, but you have the Texans-Bills. I'm super curious to see who you're going to say, because earlier you were saying that you were nervous about taking the Bills this deep, and now you're saying that the Texans and Bills are going to be playing in the AFC Championship. Ethan, do you have the Houston Texans going to the Super Bowl?
I don't know. I struggle. I honestly struggle with this matchup because this is, in my head, out of the teams that you wouldn't want to play in the AFC, these to me are the top two from the standpoint of, I mean, they're very different why you'd not want to play them. But to me, the Bills, they have the guy under center that you don't want to play. Out of all these playoffs, I think the only guy who comes close is Matt Stafford, and even him, I don't think that you would fear as much as Josh Allen. His dual threat ability, his passing prowess, his lockstep nature with Joe Brady, the way he's performed behind that offensive line. To me, this is his year to blow it, and maybe he will. But I'm going to ride that the rest of the way, and I'm going to take the Bills over the Texans to go to the Super Bowl. I don't love the pick. I can't say I love any AFC team. To be completely candid, I don't love any AFC team. I think the AFC absolutely could win the Super Bowl. But I do think the NFC is a much more loaded conference. I think they're a more battle-tested conference, and they're one I had just more confidence in. That being said, I would be more confident in the Bills going further than the Texans. For that reason, I'll take Josh Allen. I'll jump onto that. I'll hitch my wagon, as you said earlier, Alex, to that philosophy of you got the quarterback, you got the coach. I think that their team is nowhere near perfect, but their team hasn't been perfect in years past, and they've gotten to the AFC Championship game. I think their offensive line is good. I think their defense is good. You know, I wouldn't take them over any of these super highly feared defenses like the Texans or the Broncos or the Rams or the Seahawks in that same breath. But I think their defense is good enough to get there. I don't love it, but I'll take them in the Super Bowl, man. Hit me with it for you.
I mean, so for me, I have the Patriots versus the Bills. And that is another interesting matchup. It would be the third iteration. I'll just comment quickly on what you said because I think that you were spot on. I would take the Texans over the Bills. I also agree with the point about the NFC just being a stronger conference. Honestly, like, spoilers for when we go over the NFC Championship, I do think that the Seahawks versus the Rams is pretty much the Super Bowl matchup. Those are the two best teams, and you never know what's going to happen in the Super Bowl, but I really do think that it's Seahawks, Rams, and then a noticeable drop to the next team. So yes, even if you do have the Texans going to the Super Bowl, I don't think that that's crazy because I think a lot of these AFC teams are pretty close to each other, and I say that as a Patriots fan, right? Like, I do consider the Texans, the Bills, and the Patriots to be the three real contenders to make it to the Super Bowl, and I understand why you would say the Texans. The Texans have been so dominant in the second half of the season, and I do think that with the weaknesses that the Bills do have, the Texans are overall just a better rounded team and have more elite aspects to their team in that defense. For my matchup, which is the Patriots versus the Bills, once again, it comes down to that Bills run defense. The Patriots running offense has improved throughout the year, especially as they finally worked Trevion Henderson into that backfield. The Patriots put up 31 points versus the Bills in their last matchup. If I told you that the Patriots put up 31 points and that they had their best rushing performance of the year, you would assume that the Patriots won, right? Well, they didn't, because they let up 35 points, and I will say it was because Josh Allen was able to scramble all over the Patriots in the second half. Absolutely dominant, be able to rush for a bajillion yards, get whatever he needed, and that is where I believe the impact of Milton Williams will help a lot. We could not get pressure on Josh Allen in the second half. Having Milton Williams back will make such a difference. The Bills in that game scored 8 more points than anyone else had on the season on the Patriots. And Drake May put up 155 yards, which was his worst performance by far in the year. And the Bills only won by 4 points. The Bills needed Drake May to underperform as an MVP candidate. They needed him to act human. They needed to have one of their best rushing performances of the year, and they needed to score more points than anyone else had ever been able to do against the Patriots this year. And they only won by 4 points. So for me, the margin is very small, and I think that the momentum that the Patriots are building, I think that they're able to take advantage of the weaknesses that the Bills showed, and I don't think that Josh Allen will be able to walk all over the Patriots in the second half like he did last time. I'm taking the Pats in a close one. I don't think May will underperform again, and I don't think the Bills will be able to put up 35 again. Not to mention the Patriots' running attack will be as good, if not better, with the return of Will Campbell. So I think the Patriots are going to be able to run the ball versus the Bills, and Drake May, in addition to that, we're going to see a high offense game that I think that the Patriots come out on top of.
I would love to see that matchup. I can't help but think, though, we might be watching a different TV show right now. Maybe it's The Simpsons, and we have a character on named Homer.
I do have the Patriots going to the Super Bowl. And I thought long and hard about that. But like you said, I don't think that these AFC teams are all that good. So it's like, even though I'm saying the Patriots go to the Super Bowl, if I saw the Bills or the Texans go, I think that those two teams are very close to the Patriots in terms of quality. And I could really see any of them going. For me, I just like what I've seen out of the Patriots a little bit more than those two other teams.
Yeah, I mean, listen, those are. I don't know if I put the Patriots in the same breath, but to me, the two are the Texans and the Bills. Those are the two best teams in the AFC, in my opinion. I actually didn't try to plan for that to be the AFC Championship matchup, but I'm glad that I happened upon it. But having teams that in that scenario they wouldn't. None of these teams would host a single playoff game until the Texans would hypothetically host the Bills. It's hard to go on the road and win however many it would be all road wins for those teams, because then the Bills would end up winning. Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of games to have to win on the road. That's 5 victories between the two teams you'd need to get there. It's probably unlikely, but given my best shot. How about we move over to... Yeah?
Yeah, I was just going to say, if the Patriots were a lower seed, I would not have them going to the Super Bowl. I do think that seeding in these close matchups is incredibly important. But yes, let's move back over to the NFC Championship. Like I said, I do believe that these are the two best teams in football. I truly don't have a strong opinion on which way this matchup will go. I hope we get to see it. Ethan, how do you feel?
Oh, man. Yeah, I agree with you. The margins are unbelievably thin, and the matchup would just be so unbelievably gripping too. We've seen these teams play. We saw it in the first game of Seattle versus LA. We saw the Seahawks win, the Rams win by 2 points in that really fun game where the Rams were able to hold on to their victory late. And then obviously we saw that game just a few weeks ago, 38-37, where Seattle won that game at home. Both home teams winning their respective games. That game was just electric as well.
Yeah.
I hate that this is my rationale, but I think when it comes down to these two teams matched up in the playoffs, you can talk about the 12th man in home field and the domination this Seahawks defense has had, because they've been the best NFC defense, in my opinion, by a landslide. They are so, so good. That being said, I think the Rams defense is good. I think the Rams offense is potentially better than Seattle's. And what it comes down to for me is you got the quarterback, you got the head coach. Not only have they done it before, but I'd pick either of them in a vacuum or given the situation over the other in Seattle. So I'm going to go with the Rams in the Super Bowl. I wouldn't say I feel strongly, but I'm going to take the Rams. Again, taking another wild card team to go to the Super Bowl. It's highly unlikely this happens, right? But I'm going to take that team to go to the Super Bowl simply because I think in these big moments, I trust them a lot more. Whether it happens or not, that's okay. That's why we're not getting paid the big bucks to make these
Yeah.
decisions. But I do think I would take the Rams in this game, and I'd love to see my potential Super Bowl matchup of Rams Bills. Alex, tell me about your NFC Championship and what you think about mine.
We have the same NFC champion, my friend. I do think that the Rams are going to go to the Super Bowl this year. Versus the Seahawks, even though they split the series, the Rams are winning the turnover game 7-1. And in that second game, such a massive, massive part of that was Rashid Shaheed having an incredible special teams performance. How often are you going to rely on that, man? Like, I don't want to call it a fluke because I think that discredits the heart that the Seattle Seahawks played with in that game, and it makes it sound like it was luck, but like they did have more lucky bounces go their way, and that's football. And the Seahawks kept themselves in that game in order to win it. Matthew Stafford threw for 457 yards, right? Like the Rams had their way with the Seahawks, and they still lost. At a certain point, you have to look at a loss and go, that was a little fluky. And that's how I feel about the Rams-Seahawks game in that last one. I do think that the Rams are the better team. I think the football that they've showed, even though they have more losses on the season, even though they just lost to the Seahawks, is more stable. It's going to be an incredible game. Like we said in the last for the last series with Sam Darnold doesn't show up in the playoffs the way that we would hope. At times, at least, he's shown that. And I do think that this Rams defense is good enough to, once again, force a bajillion turnovers out of him. I think we'll see a bad Sam Darnold game. And we're going to see the Seahawks go out in the NFC Championship, which is, a good run for that team. But that makes my matchup a rematch of the 2018 Super Bowl Patriots-Rams. And it makes your matchup for the Super Bowl the Bills-Rams. I'm going to let you go first.
Yes, this is one actually that I'd like to say I feel more confident on than some of my other picks in the last couple rounds. I have the Rams beating the Bills, and my reasoning is I think they're a more complete football team. They've been to the Super Bowl before. The Bills obviously have been close to the Super Bowl, and they haven't been able to get over those humps. I also think that they played in maybe a more cannibalistic conference when it comes to some of those teams at the top than we've seen in recent years from NFC teams. But I'm going to take the Rams here. I think they have the right pieces to win the Super Bowl. I'm a little bit concerned from the way that they've looked in their bad performances. They've looked bad. Like the Atlanta game was bad. The Carolina game was bad. But if you exclude those two games, they've looked a lot better. And I think overall, I like the Bills because I like picking the quarterback and the head coach and the tandem. And they've had a lot of continuity between their offensive line, some of their key players who stand out on defense, even some of the skill guys like now Kincaid, Knox, like James Cook, they have enough continuity that I like them. The only quarterback that I actually think I trust more in a Super Bowl would be Matt Stafford over Josh Allen out of this Super Bowl crop. And that's not the reason why I'm picking them. I think their defense is better. I think offensively they have a lot more weapons than Buffalo does. And I like their coaching staff a lot better too. I think Chris Shula is ridiculously good. And Sean McVay obviously is a mastermind. Give me the Rams over the Bills. Again, this whole thing is such a crapshoot to try to pick this, but I will take the Rams over the Bills in a 5 or 6 Super Bowl matchup. When have we seen that, man?
Hey, man, if you call it, you call it. That would be an incredible matchup. I mean, I have a lot of similar opinions about the Rams, where they're an incredibly well-rounded team, really no weaknesses on the roster, really no weaknesses in coaching. The analysis I did for this, assuming that it's Patriots versus Rams, they're similar in that, they have the two best quarterbacks in the league this year. So how did they fare against top passing offenses? Well, I consider top passing offense a top 10 passing offense per PFF. The Rams beat the Jags 35-7 in week 7, which honestly I'm going to kind of throw out because after the Jags kind of caught fire at a certain point and became a different team, anything before the last bajillion or 6 games. I'm going to kind of say that's not the Jags of current. They beat the Jags 35-7 in week 7. They split with the 49ers where they lost 23-6 and won 42-6. So they gave up 26 points both times to the 49ers. They split with the Seahawks where they won 21-19 and then they lost 37-38. So they gave up 19 and 38 points to the Seahawks. And then they beat the Lions 41-34. So they gave up 34 points to the Lions. Even though the Rams are PFF's top ranked coverage team, which I thought was crazy. The PFF thinks that the Rams have the best coverage in the NFL. I heartily disagree looking at just volume stats, looking at less advanced metrics. I don't think that the Rams are the best secondary in the league. Let's compare to the Patriots in terms of how they fared defensively against top passing offenses. They split with the Bills, top 10. They held the Bills to 20 points and then gave up 31 to them. And then the Patriots beat the Bengals and gave up 20 points to them with Joe Burrow back. In my opinion, the Rams have a higher opinion to give up major air yardage, and I'm not sure that the Patriots have shown on film yet that they do that. That being said, the schedule, strength of schedule. The Rams have played so many more tough teams, so there's a larger sample size, and you can kind of be more confident in how the Rams would play against a top team. I do want to say that after the first 2 weeks, the Patriots haven't given up more than 258 passing yards. They had their 2 worst defensive performances the first 2 weeks versus the Raiders and the Dolphins, who had the most total yards against them. After that, the Patriots haven't had more than 258 passing yards. They held Josh Allen to 245 and 181 passing yards in their 2 matchups and limited Joe Burrow to 187. That is all to say that I do think that this Patriots secondary can hold up against this incredible Rams offense. That being said, the Rams have so much more talent on that offensive end. Drake May has no one like Puka Nacua. He doesn't have anyone like even Devontae Adams, I would say. I don't think Stephon Diggs is as good as Devontae Adams this season. Even though Drake May is going up against the top coverage team, like I said, I don't know how Drake May is going to perform against those top secondaries in the NFL because we haven't seen it yet, and I don't think that it's fair to assume he's just going to walk in and be the Drake May of this season against a top secondary. So I do think that this Rams offense will be able to put up a decent number of points versus the Patriots and kind of buck that trend of the Patriots being dominant versus good quarterbacks. Stafford has been able to pick apart elite secondaries, like when he put up 37 points and 450 passing yards on the Seahawks. And Drake May hasn't put up enough performances against top secondaries for me to confidently say that he can beat this Rams defense. Ultimately, the Rams have more overall talent. They have more championship experience, more championship coaching, and a better, well-rounded defense. I'm going to say the Rams are my Super Bowl pick, and they reverse the 2018 Super Bowl, and they finally get to beat the Patriots in the Super Bowl. Yeah. It makes me upset to say. I do think that the Patriots are fully capable of making it to the Super Bowl, but this Rams team, man, unbelievable, top to bottom.
I actually kind of think that this is an interesting hypothetical, and I think this is going to have to be rhetorical, but I almost feel like Seattle, like you said, the NFC Championship, if it's Seattle against the Rams, that's kind of the Super Bowl in a lot of ways. I think I might take Seattle if they were to beat the Rams in either a Patriots or Bills matchup as well, which to me just kind of speaks volumes about how much better is the NFC West than every other division in football right now. It's ridiculous. It really is. Yeah. Like the AFC East is good, but top to bottom, the Cardinals were a stinker this year, but the Niners are the 3rd best team in the division in terms of record. Wow, it blows my mind that division, those are 4 teams out of 32 in one division.
I truly do believe that the Seahawks and the Rams are the 2 best teams in football by a pretty solid margin. I guess I kind of spoiled that ahead of time when I was talking about the NFC Championship. But yeah, I would take the Seahawks over the Patriots. I would take the Seahawks over the Bills. I would take the Seahawks over the Texans. I don't think there's any team that can come out of the AFC that I would confidently take over the Seahawks. I mean, I'm assuming that you would also take the Rams in a Patriots-Rams Super Bowl, confidently.
I mean, I think it's the Super Bowl, so nothing's confident, but yeah. Yeah.
I wonder when was the last time a 5 seed won the Super Bowl? It hasn't been too long because there have been wild card Super Bowl
I
winners.
think the New York Giants it might be.
I was gonna say the same thing.
I think
Yeah.
it's the Giants. The Packers were a 6 seed when they won it against the Steelers. Um,
Last wild card Super Bowl winner was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were a wild card team in 2020.
oh yeah, they were the
I did not
5
realize
because
that.
they went against the Commanders and Taylor Heineke first round in Washington. You know, your typical Taylor Heineke
The
versus Tom
Taylor
Brady matchup
Heineke game, man. Oh,
in
yeah,
the
that was, wait,
playoffs.
who won the NFC South that year?
It must have been ooh,
It was
the
the
Falcons.
Saints, wasn't
Oh
it?
wow, yeah, no, actually, yeah, it must have been the Saints. Yeah,
Yeah, that would have been the Michael Thomas, Drew Brees Saints. Am I off?
I think that's right. It sounds right. Wow. Well, nonetheless,
Yeah,
crazy
nonetheless.
if a wild card team does end up winning the Super Bowl. But Alex, the other thing that I think we can wrap with here in your Super Bowl hypothetical, you would have Drake May against Matt Stafford in the Super Bowl. Obviously, they would give out the award the Thursday before. But tell me about your MVP because I got some opinions as well. I don't know if we'll agree.
Super quick side note: the New Orleans Saints went 12-4, and the Tampa Bay Bucks went 11-5 in 2020. I do think that Drake May deserves the MVP, and I'm trying not to be a homer. Matthew Stafford set the all-time NFL record for most 1-yard touchdowns with 12, and he blew away the next highest, which was 8. And that was in, I think, Pat Mahomes' 50 touchdown season. Was Pat Mahomes' second. Matthew Stafford blew away the precedent for that. So for me, it's like when you look at the raw stats, when you look at the touchdowns at least, a big part of me in the back of my head is like, dude, half of these were just contested catch throws to Devontae Adams, and that feeds into there's so much more talent that Stafford is surrounded with that Drake May doesn't have. I think that Stafford has the superior offensive line. Drake May has it worse. I think that Stafford has the superior weapons to throw to. He has top 3, 4, 5 wide receiver in the NFL to throw to. So there's that. May was 2 games better. We're talking about a 2 seed versus a 5 seed. Overall, I think that Stafford's put up an MVP caliber season. For me, what Drake May's been able to do is just incredible, man. You take Drake, and you hear this argument all the time. You take Drake May off the Patriots, how do they do? Even with the schedule. You take Stafford off of the Rams, how do they do? Even with the schedule. Rams had one of the hardest schedules. Drake May had one of the easiest schedules. I still think that Drake May brought more value to his team, did more in the face of adversity and with less. And so I would give Drake May the edge. That being said, I understand if other people don't feel the same. I'd love to hear your thoughts, Ethan, but that's how I feel.
Yeah, I unfortunately agree with you on most of that, which kind of makes me sad. And I have some numbers from Sumer Sports, which they're awesome. May is first in EPA per play, with Stafford being 6th. May is first in yards per attempt, with Stafford being 7th. Drake May is 4th in average depth of target, with Stafford being 6th. And May's first in CPOE, completion percentage over expected. I think that there's a fair argument. I actually think that the schedule thing is a fair one in terms of Stafford's had one of the hardest schedules. His division has been ridiculous, as we've talked about. And yes, it's a 5 seed versus a division winning 2 seed who, if the Broncos lost one more game, they would have had home field, the bye, and this whole debate would be over because the 1 seed gives you the MVP if you have an MVP caliber season. I think Matt Stafford will end up winning the MVP. And my reason is his counting stats are that much better than Drake May, where it's almost not apples to apples. And
Yeah.
I hate to say that because I agree with you that Drake May, if you replace Drake May with the average quarterback, I don't know if it's starting quarterback or just the average quarterback, Like if they're 96 quarterbacks, quarterback number 48, like, you know,
Jimmy Garoppolo.
okay,
Jacoby Brissett.
I'm not
Who do
going to
you
name
think? Who do you
someone.
think is the average quarterback?
Starting
I would say
quarterback
like
or just overall, like that's a very different thing. You know, if we say 96 versus 32, 16 versus 48 is a very different average. But
I would
let's,
say like the perfect surface. Like we're not. I would say Jordan Love is the average starting quarterback, but I'd say he's still like a championship potential winning quarterback. I'm talking like perfectly does absolutely nothing to
well,
raise or lower the team. Just like he's
yeah,
just
no, I
there.
understand
I'd
what
say
you're
Jacoby
saying.
Brissett.
I wouldn't name anyone in particular because I feel like that's always going to be poorly clipped. But I do think if you put whatever that replacement level quarterback is, I do think the Patriots have a larger drop off than the Rams this year. And I actually think most voters would agree with you on that. But I don't think that's how the award is voted on in some circumstances. I think the counting stats are that much more dominant for Matt Stafford. And for better or worse, I do think that that will be why he ends up winning the award. Whether that's right or not, if I had a vote, I would be hard pressed not to give it to Drake May, given the aforementioned reasons and the fact that, yes, his schedule has been worse, but his surrounding talent is also worse. How you quantify those two things, I have no idea. But just from watching Drake May, I've been incredibly impressed with what he's done. He throws a really nice football, and his deep ball is insane. And he's done it on deeper passes than Matt Stafford is, right? The A-dot fourth versus sixth,
Oh,
his completion percentage
unbelievable.
is first in the league. That's
Yeah.
otherworldly in a lot of ways. And
Oh yeah.
I do think that if Drake May, and part of it is maybe they're blowing teams out too much where Drake May isn't throwing the ball in the fourth quarter, right? Like there's a real argument for that. And maybe you could say that Matt Stafford and Sean McVay have, in some cases, stat padded with the 1 yard touchdown throws, or that they're potentially not, it's not as valid. But the fact of the matter is, Drake May's counting stats are much worse than Matt Stafford. And as a result, I think Stafford will win. I personally would have Drake May.
I loved the insight that you brought to that. I would say, like you said, Drake May dominates in advanced metrics. So it's one of those kind of like casual versus advanced analytics arguments. In my opinion, I think that like the stats nerds, like when you really delve into it, would say Drake May, but that's not necessarily what wins the award. I mean, I think even last year, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander had more points than Nikola Jokic. And, you know, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander put up an MVP caliber season, but when you take the bias out of it and when you take the voter fatigue out of it, when you take all that away, Nikola Jokic was the best player in basketball. He was the most valuable player to his team. You take him off the team, look how much worse the Nuggets would be than the Oklahoma City Thunder. And it's obviously not a one-to-one comparison, but I do think that it's apt. I do think what Drake May's been able to do, especially with that average depth of target being much deeper, and he's probably going to win the completion percentage title for this season, I believe. I think he locked that up. I'd have to double check. But he's probably going to win that, and to do that while being an incredible down-the-field passer is just unbelievable. This is not Drew Brees at the end of his career, man. This is a guy who's hucking that thing and turning Kayshon Boutte into an elite-level deep threat. You could have never heard me sing the praises of that. I watched Kayshon Boutte, man. Like, I did not think that he was ever going to have a season like this. I didn't think that that was his upside. Preseason, I said we should probably cut Kayshon Boutte because I didn't know how he fit into this offense. And now it's like, wow, you have a legitimate wide receiver too who has a potential career in this league. You would never say that about Puka Nacua or Devontae Adams. Not to say Stafford doesn't make his players better, but what Drake May's been able to do with his surrounding cast means a lot to me. You know, I guess I'm repeating myself. I'm beating a dead horse here, but Drake May's my pick for MVP. I understand why people would go Stafford, but that's how I feel.
Yeah, it'll be so fascinating to see because those first place votes between those two, I can't imagine anyone else gets a first place vote, but it's really just going to come down to which player has more first place votes. Like that's, sometimes we end up seeing the third and the fourth places matter for some of these awards, but for that one, it's just going to be which gets the majority of the first place votes. And I think it's going to be fascinating on that 5th of February, I believe, is the date of the award show.
Yeah.
Any closing remarks Alex.
I was just going to say, to corroborate what you were just saying, I know that Trevor Lawrence, last time I checked, was ranked third in MVP voting. So it's like after Drake May and Stafford, there's a drop.
Oh, yeah. I mean, listen, between guys like Josh Allen and Bo Nix, even Trevor Lawrence, like some of these guys will get nods. Sam Darnold will get some fifth place votes too because he's on the number one seed, man. So, yeah, I'm excited to see too. I'm sure that like Myles Garrett is someone who I'd love to see get some third place votes for MVP, right? They won, what was it, 4 games they won this season?
I think 5.
Did they win 5?
Yeah, which I was expecting them to do way worse. That defense was unbelievable. It literally took Myles Garrett breaking the record
they won.
Sorry, 5 games.
It's the Pittsburgh and the Baltimore, or the Cincinnati won 2 in a row. So they ended on a 2-game win streak. But yeah, I think Myles Garrett very well could finish third in MVP voting just based on the fact it's like, whoa, that's crazy. So,
yeah, take Myles Garrett off that Browns team. How do they do? 1 win. Literally 1. Probably. Anyways, Ethan, I thank you for your time. I know that it's super late for you, so I appreciate you being a soldier, trucking through all the sleepy time thoughts.
No, very fun.
Yeah, absolutely. No, super fun to guess. I'm glad that we have the same Super Bowl champion. Great minds think alike. Thank you for everyone watching. I know this was a bit of a longer one. We appreciate you. We love you. We cherish you. We hope to see you soon. We'll definitely be dissecting the playoffs, and we look forward to seeing you then.